This video shows some highlights from my live training sessions. Hi folks, welcome back. On this video and probably the next several videos that I'll record, what I'd like to try and do is to highlight a really simple way of identifying support and resistance. To be fair, where a chart is concerned, whether it be any time frame, this just happens to be the 480-minute chart, but the principles of price action are exactly the same on any chart and time frame. Support and resistance is essentially all over the chart, but you know what support and resistance levels do we use? Can we favour any support and resistance? I'm just marking off a few off here, you know, just literally swing highs, swing lows, but can we filter these support and resistance levels down to try and find out which ones hold more interest, more weighting towards trying to identify a location on the chart? You know, can we actually do that? Of course we can. It is a very simple methodology, what I'm about to talk through, a very simple approach. If we're looking for a point where the balance of power changes, not just identifying where support and resistance is where the balance of power could change, but to find a location on the chart which has already proven to show a dramatic shift in the balance of power. So all I'm going to do right now is mark off literally where the balance of power has changed from bulls to bears, buyers to sellers, but not only has it changed, but we've seen a dramatic shift in that balance of power. So what we can see me marking off right now is literally identifying some of the larger movements in price activity with the blue shaded boxes. So we can identify these as locations on the chart where price has already proven is we've identified where the balance of power has changed. There's been a dramatic shift in buyers to sellers or sellers to buyers. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to identify very simply just the high bar and the low bar, and I'm just going to take that area on the chart and just move that across. So now I've got an area of support and an area of resistance where the balance of power has shifted dramatically. Now when that's been done, what we end up with are these horizontal blue box areas, and again all I've done to identify these zones is taken the bar at the top of the move and the bar at the bottom of the move as my extreme boundaries of support and resistance. And again, by drawing that zone across the chart, that can help me to identify future zones of interest where the balance of power could shift once again quite dramatically. So again, if we just look across the chart, we can see that as price rallied several times up to this zone, price essentially sold off back to the previous zone of activity, this area of interest where the buyers and the sellers that can move and influence the markets. This is where they are participating in, where these dramatic shifts and changes in the balance of power are happening. This is where these moves are starting. So it'd be fair to assume that should price ever come back to these locations, then there's a good chance that the balance of power will change once again. Now whether it's going to be a reaction, you know, essentially a reversal as we can see just here, or whether price initially pushes through as we can see just there. Now again, it did effectively react off it eventually, but what we can see is that price did go through that location initially before turning around. So rather than say it as support or as resistance and only viewing it as support or as resistance, think of it as a location of interest. This is the next place on the chart that something interesting could happen. Now when price comes along, if we just go to this point here, now when price gets up to this location in real time, We don't know that price is going to reverse or continue, but what we do know is that previously, looking back across the chart, this is where something interesting happens. So it'd be fair to assume that something interesting could well happen again. Now, whether that's up or whether that's down at that location, only time will tell. I don't have a crystal ball. I really don't know what's going to happen on the chart next, but what I'm trying to do is trying to increase the chances, increase the probability that when I do place a trade, this is a location that is of interest. It is a location that could produce a good move away from or through the location that's being identified. Let's just zoom into the chart and take a look at the most recent area of price activity. What we can see is that price has ultimately sold off that big move down. We've got the area highlighted here as an area of interest. And we've also got the bottom of the move here, the low of the move, also as an area of interest. Now, we've actually got a nice movement upwards into that previous location. And what do we see here is, in this case, a nice reaction off a previously established location of interest, a previous location where the balance of power changed quite dramatically. Now, on this move up here, we can see it was in two stages. We've got a push up, a little bit rough around the edges, as you can see from the spikes on our chart. We've got a push up, a pause, and then another push up in price. But look where price is stopping. We've effectively got a two-stage move up to that resistance level. So we can also say that price rallied, paused, rallied, but this is where price stopped and started on both those occasions. You see price rallied, paused, rallied again. Now, as price sells off, what we can see is it's come back into that previous location, not necessarily because price paused, but because this is where price previously. So as price comes back down to this location, this now in real time is the next location of interest. What will happen at this location? I don't know. That's the honest answer. I really don't know. But it's an established area of interest. It will either react, most likely back up to this next area of interest. This is where the move down started. Back into this newly established area of interest. Or price will continue through it, back down to this previously established area of interest. And the distance between those two locations is essentially what you're aiming to trade for. So identifying support and resistance, a really simple method of doing it. Identify where price has previously established a significant change in the balance of power. When or if price gets back to that location, that certainly from a timing point of view is a good place to be thinking about deploying a strategy. Whatever that strategy is, whether it be a reversal, continuation, trend, whatever your strategy is. But all I'm trying to do at this point with this methodology, with this logic, is to identify a location that is interesting, where something, the next something could happen.